Now, after payroll, insurance costs are our highest expense.
Ridiculous.
Here at Johnson Security.
Ridiculous.
And so we're at the airport for a walkthrough
Really
to discuss a contracting opportunity. And one of our peers. And we are back. Welcome to the latest episode of Commerce and Chill. I am Jessica Johnson Coe.
I'm Waleed.
Hi Waleed, how you doing?
I'm here. What's going on?
What you thinking about? Because you look like you got the weight of the world on your shoulder, like Atlas.
I was about to say who's Atlas, but they had the statue. I'm an entrepreneur. It's always weight on my shoulders. It never stops.
You got to figure out a way to let it go. But this is what you do: take your hand and breathe, and as you breathe, trace around each of your fingers, but concentrate on your breathing.
Yeah, they used to have me do that in school, and I would always trace it and draw it on my hand. But
You don't need a pen. Just use
you're
your
supposed to use my finger and it ain't work. I just tried.
You didn't try it the right way.
Look.
You got to put your hand on the table, and you got to breathe. Inhale. No, that doesn't count. Deep breaths. All right, now you got to do this while you breathe.
What's this supposed to do? First of all, where'd you get this from?
It's a way to relieve anxiety.
I don't have anxiety.
You do have anxiety.
No, I
you talk
don't.
about you have the weight of the world on your shoulder as an entrepreneur.
No, I said I always have weight on my shoulder because I'm an entrepreneur.
You got to figure out a way to release that, my brother.
You can't release it. It's always something to do.
Just because you have always something to do doesn't mean you have to let it weigh you down. Don't.
I just said it's on my shoulders. I didn't say it's weighing me down. I got weight on my shoulders. I carry mad weight. That's what we do at the Soapbox. We carry weight. That's how we make money. We carry a mad weight. If the bags is light, we ain't making no bread. Ask Espinoza in his laundry club video. I'm making bread. Every time you place an order, you're not just getting clean laundry. You're helping create jobs. Hey, Hob, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
Hob, what are you doing now?
I'm working.
He's making bread.
All right, I'm glad you're making bread. So last week, I got a
Now
call
we need to break bread.
from one of our employees. He said, Ms. Johnson, I noticed on my check that you're taking out from insurance. I got insurance from my job before I retired. I got health insurance. I got life insurance. I don't need no more insurance. Can you please give me back my money and stop taking it out my check? So I had to go on to explain to him that the deduction that he saw on his pay stub was actually for mandatory disability insurance. The state requires that large employers such as us provide disability insurance, and employees.
I thought everybody had to do that.
Well, that's a whole nother story, but we can get to that.
It's not just large businesses, it's everybody.
Well, we have to do it. So that's how I know about it. Anyway, so the company has to contribute to a disability insurance policy, and then we make deductions from our employees' checks towards disability insurance policy.
No, we don't make deductions. We make deductions on behalf of.
We make deductions which we remit to the disability
we're
insurance
not making
provider.
any deductions. They say we have to deduct it, and then we give it to the state or the insurance, whoever's handling the disability insurance. What's the two new ones? Disability and what's the other one?
So that was going to add that. And a few years ago, our state here in New York, led by Governor Cuomo, not Mario, what's his name? Andrew Prince Cuomo. He decided it would be fitting for larger employers to offer paid family leave to all of their employees.
Oh, yeah, that's the other one.
And so here in New York, our paid family leave is tied into our employee short-term disability policy. So the deduction that this employee was talking about was towards the disability policy, the required disability policy, which includes paid family leave. And recently we had one of our employees whose family was expecting a baby. His wife gave birth. And so now he's out for the next 12 weeks because the paid family leave policy covers paternity leave. So he can get up to 12 weeks of paid leave. The interesting part is that he also works for one of our competitors. and we know this because we work with the competitor, so it's more like a cooperation. So he works for our competitor and was planning to take off the same amount of paid time with our competitor, and our competitor denied his request. In fact, told him that if he didn't come into work, he could potentially be terminated. So it got us to talking about what insurance means to small businesses, when small businesses like ours are required to have insurance, and what's the cost of having and not having insurance. So what's your take on securing insurance for life and for your business?
You should get it. There's no debate, there's no discussion. If the law says you need a certain insurance for your business, then you should get it. And I can't speak to every type of business, but from what I've read and done research presently and in the past, there are some business types, not entities, that it's mandatory that you have certain types of insurance. Like having a car, it's mandatory that you have certain type of insurance on a car, depending on your car. So if your car is like new and you have you're financing it, the bank that's loaned you the money or the institution that loaned you the money will require that you have full coverage and a certain amount of coverage. So if something happens to the car, they get made whole. Mm-hmm. And then the state and different entities dictate how much insurance you have to have for like liability, personal injury, this, that, and the third. So it's the same thing with some businesses. You're required to have certain types of insurance. So whatever business you're in, I would highly suggest speaking to a qualified insurance agent / broker, whatever the right term is for that.
For your line of business.
For your line of business, and speak to a lawyer also, because there might be insurance requirements, but then from a legal perspective, your attorney might suggest getting additional because of what they see in your industry when it comes to people getting sued or having, different liabilities based on what they do.
You make a great point there, because I remember a few months ago, we were looking at some business opportunities at one of the airports. Now, after payroll, insurance costs are our highest expense.
Ridiculous.
Here at Johnson Security.
Ridiculous.
And so we're at the airport for a walkthrough
really high.
To discuss a contracting opportunity.
Really, really high.
And one of our peers was asking, who do you use? Because I got my insurance online.
Yo, you can't be using the General to get insurance for your business. If anybody started laughing as soon as I said the General, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Them commercials that come on with the General and Shaquille O'Neal. You're like, no.
You will end up on the firing line of business opportunities. If you try to go to the General and not, and no disrespect
it's a business.
To the General.
And think about it too. There's roughly 30 million small businesses in the United States.
Right.
And then, let me get my notes here. There's 30 million businesses roughly in the United States, right? Small businesses in the United States, which count for, they say, roughly about 99.7% of all businesses. So there's 30 million small businesses in the United States.
30 million?
30 million.
30?
Small businesses in the United States.
Okay.
There's a roughly 30 million in the U.S. And 99.7% of those small businesses account 99.7% of the businesses in the United States are small businesses.
Got it.
That's a huge number. So there are 30 million approximately small businesses. And out of all the businesses in the United States, 99.7% are small businesses. So you always hear about these big companies in the news, the Johnson & Johnson, the I don't know who, the Airbnbs, the Ubers, the drug company, the pharmaceutical company.
The Fortune 500,
the
right?
Fortune 500.
Even the Fortune 500. You put them all together.
Frito-Lay, Pepsi, all these big companies, they only make up 0.3% of the businesses in the United States. 0.3.
But what about the
approximately.
Insurance?
So, I forgot what I was saying. Bring it back, like I totally lost it. Yeah. I don't know. You were saying something about.
No, you were going to make a note about the research.
Yeah, that. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah! I was going to say. So they were saying when I was reading through it, there was like a lot of small businesses are sole proprietorships, right? It's a solopreneur. It's one person working. And they said a lot of small businesses, they said roughly 44%. They did a poll of like 30,000 businesses, and they said like 44% of them don't have insurance. They didn't have, when they polled them, they didn't have it or they never had insurance.
Oh, wow.
That's scary. And think about it, like there's insurance for almost everything these days. There is insurance for everything. Like you can get insurance for your phone. When you buy your cell phone, they're like, do you want it? Or you order something online, they're like, do you want the buyer protection program insurance? Like insurance is just in case shit happens.
That reminds me of that bit that Chris Rock used to have. He's like, why don't they call it insurance? They need to call it in case of.
In case it happens. That's what it is. But I'm fine paying insurance in case it happens, because when it happens, I don't got to worry. That's one less weight on my shoulder when something happens.
Right. Waleed is listening to a book called Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Beth David, who just happens to be in the insurance business. And he says that he's in the expectation business. What?
Do you get referrals or something? Like you just put his whole government on there. You just said everything. Like, are you on a referral program with
I'm not on a referral program, but I want to make sure that everybody out there is informed and that they realize we're not pulling these details out of the crack of our back pocket.
I just make this stuff up as I go along.
But since he's in the insurance business, he says he's in the expectation business. Like really,
fact checker.
Insurance is in expectation of something happening. And he said most of his clients get insurance so that they can be prepared. I think regardless of the size of your business, the nature of your business, you always want to be prepared.
Right. You want to plan so many moves. Like you need to think of it like chess. Like you could play checkers if you want, but I rather play this game like chess. And when you make a move, you've already thought about, 4 to 6 moves ahead of that move, because you're contemplating what your competition is going to do, your opponent, and then what you would do if they do that. So to me, insurance is, thinking several steps ahead, because if this was to happen, I hope it never happens, then I have the insurance for it, and that takes care of that. But I don't want to deal with the headaches at all. So yeah.
So for those of you who
insurance, take my money.
Never stopped by Commerce Ventureland before. I'm big on dictionary words, so I can understand the background and true meaning of the words that we use on a regular basis. So when I looked up insurance, there were 3 definitions that stood out to me. The first was coverage by contract, whereby one party undertakes to indemnify or guarantee another against loss by a specified contingency or peril. The second is a means of guaranteeing protection or safety. I mean, we are in the security business, so insurance would be important. And then the third is a side bet that a player in blackjack may place when the dealer's first face-up card is
they do have the insurance thing on the blackjack table. Yeah, I never really did understand that. They'd be like, you want insurance? I'd be like, no, I'm gambling. What do I need insurance for? I'm just like, no, like, come on.
But even when you gamble, there's a place for insurance. But the part that stood out with that first definition was coverage by contract, right? Many times as small business owners, we want to get involved on a handshake basis, right? On pinky promise. We can't do that, especially not if we want longevity in our business, if we want sustainability in our business and continuity. Yeah, but still,
I'm not trying to have a handshake or no business deal with my insurance broker. Let's be absolutely clear. My insurance carrier.
But it's 100%. But it's a good practice to have a contract.
You should have it, regardless.
Regardless, like even you get a.
There are a few people like we have some handshake deals with, but I don't recommend it for anybody. But if you're a handshake person, you're like, I'm a person of my word, man or woman. You better make sure whoever you're doing that with, they're the same, because then it will definitely come back and bite you. No, we didn't say this. Like, have some kind of, at least a memorandum of understanding where everybody's agreed to something.
And you sign on the line that's dotted.
At a minimum, like, put it in the email, to send it to them, and then they reply, yes, I agree. Like, we're good. Let's go. Get something, but have a contract.
When the definition talks about indemnify, I'm reminded of a situation that happened not too long ago. We do business with a couple of large firms as a subcontractor, and in their contracts, they always want us to include language regarding indemnifying them in all of their...
Even when they do stuff wrong. We need to indemnify them no matter what.
Basically saying that we're not going to blame them. We will assume all of the blame.
Even if it's your fault, you still want me to assume the blame.
So listen.
What kind of tomfoolery is that?
I know you want to get those contracts. Even if it's just a small contract or somebody's big contract. And many times, small business owners will get intrigued by the prospect of being able to work with a different corporation and a government agency. And that large prime contractor might be the only vehicle to get to those type of opportunities. Number one, don't do anything without a contract. Number two, read the contract. Number three, make sure you change something on the contract. And number four, don't let them...
Let your lawyer read it.
Yeah.
Let your lawyer read it. And listen, depending on the size of the contract or the type of work, it could be simple. It could be like a 1-page contract, a 2-page contract. Read everything. And when you read it, if it's something you don't understand, ask a question. Somebody might know. Google it. See what it actually means in regular terminology instead of legalese. Like, find out what it means. And don't be afraid. Just because somebody gives you a contract doesn't mean you have to accept it. Contracts are made to be negotiated. Every point, every word, every syllable, every period, every punctuation mark, every space on that piece of paper can be negotiated. Just because somebody drafted and gave it to you because you want to do business with them or they want to do business with you does not mean you have to accept it. But at the same time, you don't have to be like an a-hole about it and just be like nitpicking over every little thing. Make sure that it's applicable
and mutually beneficial.
Right. Both people walk away from the arrangement feeling like they both,
they didn't get taken advantage of.
Exactly. Like, I almost want to say you want both people to walk away feeling like they left something on the table. Like, you almost walk away feeling like, yeah, I probably could have got a little more. Because then if both parties walk away feeling like they left something on the table, there was some kind of mutual give and take there. Be like, yeah, I probably could have got 3% more. And the other person is like, yeah, I probably could have got 3 or 4% more too. So they both left 3% on the table, so it was fair for both people,
But as small business owners, we don't want to leave anything on the table, and we don't want to get caught indemnifying these large businesses. So in this particular situation, there was someone who got injured at a work site. And our company was working as a sub.
Should you be talking about this?
I'm giving an example. A few years ago, working at a residential property, somebody spilled something on the floor. Our employee puts up a sign, watch wet floor. Somebody walks right past the wet floor sign, takes a step, slips and falls. Don't you know the large organization with the big budget to whom we work as a subcontractor wanted to enjoin us in a lawsuit for the slip and fall? Then they tried to say, well, in the contracts, it says that you'll indemnify us. No. It said that we'll indemnify you if we do something wrong. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever else the language said. This is my thing. These companies have the big, long bucks. Why do they want to shift the liability down to the small businesses? Because it's easy.
That's how you get the long bucks. You just keep passing everything off to somebody else and make them pay for it.
Because the small business owners don't read the contract.
Because you get caught up in the moment that you're so happy to work with this organization or this large organization, and you think if I get this deal is going to be the thing that takes you over the top, and we're going to start winning, and money is going to rain from the sky like it's a strip club, and you're just going to be swimming in money on the floor picking it up. It doesn't work that way. Success it's not like just one thing just happened. It's a series of little wins. We talked about this previously. It's progress. It's a struggle. It happens. You get a little bit here and you're like, oh, that was good. Then something happens here and you're like, oh, that was good. Then nothing happens for a while. And then somebody drops something in the background and you hear all this noise.
And you're like, yeah, that's not good.
And then you're like, oh, okay, we'll move forward. And then more progress comes. And then something else happens.
This is the moral of the story. Had we not had insurance, we could have potentially been liable for the person's injuries, their medical fees, their lawyers' fees.
Well, if we didn't have insurance, we wouldn't have got the contract. Because one of the agreements in the contract was we had to have insurance.
That particular case, they didn't do their due diligence and never requested certificates of insurance.
But they're supposed to. Depending who you're working with, you should be requesting certificates of insurance from people you're working with and making sure they're licensed and insured. Like if you hire a contractor to do work in your home or your business or wherever, you want to make sure that they're licensed and insured. Just in case.
Just in case. The other thing is because we have a reputable insurance broker who directed us to the appropriate coverages that we needed, the insurance company, the underwriters looked at the lawsuit and they said, oh no, we're not going to pay the claim. You're not responsible because according to your contract, the scope of work says X, Y, and Z.
Well, that goes back to you talked about having a contract.
Cleaning up the floor.
But this episode is not about contracts. It's about insurance.
But so you want to make sure that you have reputable, suitable coverages and that the insurance companies as well as the brokers that you work with understand your business well enough to get you
work with a broker who's familiar with the business that you're in.
And then you let the underwriters do what they need to do. If they need to assign an attorney, they'll do that. I mean, because you've already paid for it. And if they're good, they'll get you out of the case. Chief, what else did you want to share from your research about insurance and why it's important, especially for small business owners, to have insurance?
Well, first of all, if you just look at some of the stats where they talk about the type of issues that come up for small businesses around insurance, in the data that they had, and we'll put the links up so you could click on it and look through it. But they said like 10% of the claims were employee injury. So that goes back to you talked about earlier, workers' comp insurance. So workers' comp would cover that. Somebody gets injured on the job. And
short-term disability if they get hurt when they're not working, because if they're not able to go to work, that could have a significant financial impact on you and on your business.
Yep, because now you don't have someone performing that task or role that you need done.
And one significant disability that people don't necessarily take into account is when women have babies.
Maternity leave.
How the different disability policies cover maternity varies. But it's important to have some type of disability insurance.
Yeah. So, workers' comp is would fall for that employee injury, not industry. Then they said about 8.8 of the claims fall around burglary and theft. So that would fall under your if it was a business commercial property insurance to cover like what was replaced, or there's also business interruption insurance. So if you're out of business for whatever reason, that policy they look at what your sales were, and then you can get compensated based on what revenue you would have produced during that time frame.
Unless it's like COVID, and then all the insurance policy providers decide that they're going to write a clause that says, "Oh no."
It falls under like natural, whatever the natural disaster thing.
That's one of the non-covered clauses.
I mean, you think about like I don't know, like I'm 50-50 on that, because if you think about it, if all insurance companies had to pay out based on some COVID related like business claims for not generating income, like potentially it probably could put quite a few insurance companies out of business.
Well, there are a lot of businesses that are going out of business because their insurance companies will not pay on their business interruption insurance. I mean, if you paid business interruption insurance,
if you're not covered on it, it's like the whole terrorism policy thing that got added after 9/11. So it's like, it's interesting. I'm not saying either way. I try to look at things from both sides of it, but it's tough.
What other types of incidents happen?
Well, you talked about slip and fall. So it could be a customer in your business who gets injured. So that falls under your general liability insurance. You definitely have. Then it depends. You selling products. Your product could injure somebody. Look at when Samsung, they had those phones where the batteries were exploding, right? That's their product hurting people and damaging, injuring people, damaging other property. So they say like 2.3% of the time, it's the product has caused injury or damage. I don't know if I said for customer injury, it was like 2.4% of the poll that they did. But there's insurance, product liability insurance that you can get that falls under your general liability, covers different expenses for your product, injuring someone.
We've had experience where we've needed employment liability insurance. So in the event that someone claims that you terminated them or discriminated against them, they could try to take a lot of the money from the business to cover their claims. And sometimes those claims are unfounded, but you still want to protect yourself. We have, in addition to our general liability insurance, excess liability or an umbrella policy. So say, for an example, a project at the airport will require $40 million worth of coverage per occurrence. So, $40 million. But our general liability is only $1 million. We'll need to get an additional policy that will cover the gap between the $40 million and that $1 million. And so we'll get an assortment of coverage that will add up to $39 million worth of excess or umbrella liability coverage.
A lot of zeros.
A lot of insurance.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. So at the end of the day, the question is, some people might be like, yeah, Waleed, so, Jessica, we pay this insurance every month. I pay, whatever, a couple $100 a month or whatever their premium is for 6 months or a year. Like, what's the chances of, these things happening, or is it really worth it? Like, I could use that money to, put back in my business. It's a small business. I'm trying to grow it, which I get it, respect. But if one of these things happen, then you're going to be out of business.
With the quickness. Right.
So the Hartford Insurance Company, which is, pretty big. We've used them in the past. They were they listed the 10 most expensive types of claims. And they have the claim in the dollar amount. So the one they listed was reputation harm. And on the average, they said it's like $50,000. The claim for it. Vehicle accident. Mm-hmm. $45,000.
Commercial auto liability.
Yeah, stuff is expensive. Fire damage, $35,000. Product liability, another $35,000. Customer injury or property damage, which we talked about a few seconds ago, $30,000. Wind and hail damage, $26,000.
And global warming is here.
There you go. Customer slip and fall, $20,000. Water and freezing damage, $17,000. Someone being struck by an object. It could be something falling off a shelf. I know somebody, their ceiling fell down in the business and hit them.
But what about the guy that we had at the job and the fan fell on him?
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, that was weird. Struck by an object, they say it's about $10,000 claim. And then burglary and theft, $8,000.
And let me be perfectly clear. On a previous episode, we established that the average small business, particularly a solopreneur, mom and pop, makes about $44,000-$48,000 per year.
Right. So
in revenue.
If it's like 48,000, like
more than half of those.
The highest claim I said here was like
50,000
reputation harm. Mm-hmm. Like I even saw one thing. There's photography insurance. So you're a photographer and you're taking pictures, like you could get sued by someone. Like you take a picture of like some scenery and there's some random person in it and you post it on your website or you do whatever. Potentially someone could be like, I don't know, you took that picture of me, I didn't give you my approval. I don't know what the rules are, the laws, and then they sue you, like you need photographer's insurance. Like it's a very is that the right word? Society with
litigious
society. So like you want to be careful. Like you want to have just in case stuff.
And insurance. The more we spend time on these, the need for cyber security insurance is increasing. And so don't be surprised if your broker tries to get you to get that, because depending on the client, on the federal government side, they're looking for some level of cyber coverage. So look, you work really hard to start and build your business. You don't want to lose your business on a technicality. Make sure you have the proper insurance coverages, that you work with a reputable, knowledgeable insurance broker who understands your business and identifies the best coverage to fit your products and services. And we're here. Like, we know that you stopped by so you can get the right information. Waleed did his research to drop lots of information so that you know how to protect yourself, the different kind of coverages, so you can ask a broker about it and not just go online to the bots. And hopefully we've given you enough examples to help you understand that we're not talking about this, for the fun of it, but because it's a real issue in small businesses, especially as you grow.
Like you need it. Unemployment insurance, disability insurance, workers' comp insurance. Trust me, you need these things. Like you might look at it as a line item and be like, yeah, if I don't have to pay this, I would have more revenue or I have more profit. Like,
figure out how to include it in your pricing, pass the cost along to your client, and you'll be all the better for it. And you'll be able to stay around to keep your business running.
Right. And you might say, well, if I include in my cost is going to be higher than my competitors. So now I can't be competitive and they're going to win the business. Well, maybe that's a selling point for you because your competitors probably don't have insurance. Like, and I'm done after this. At the box, like we have had commercial clients reach out to us to talk about performance service for them. And it was like, well, your number is slightly higher than this other place I'm looking at. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go through why we're probably higher. One, we're licensed by Consumers Affairs. All of our stuff is regulated. We follow the guidelines. We have this much insurance. So if this happens to your items or your product, this is how we're going to rectify it and take care of it. And then they're like, oh. And then they're like, let me get back to you. Let me check with the other vendors that I'm looking at to see. I'm like, yeah, here's a copy of our license. I put it in all our proposals. And I'm like, some of these places, they're not even licensed or insured. So if that causes your rate to go up, which I'm hoping you have insurance already, so your rate is not going up because now you're getting it. But if you don't have it, just go get it. It's better to have it. Use that as a selling point. Use it and use it strongly.
That's all we have for you today. In case of something, make sure you have insurance. Stay covered, and we look forward to seeing you